relates to what's happening now. Reparations. It's very interesting that very early on, before we even reached the summer, Tony Blair came to the United States and met with the president last summer. And both of them made it clear that they were equivocal about whether they're going to participate in the World Conference Against Racism. And I guess you aren't surprised why Great Britain was a little reluctant to talk about racism. It's not current day events, but it was clear that if you're going to talk about racism, that you had to look at colonialism and slavery as the twin evils of past centuries that have a lot to do with racial practices and the legacies of racial practices in the 21st century. And so it was clear that they did not want to play a role in dealing with that. And what's very interesting is that many of you know that I've been involved in the reparations movement and one of the lead attorneys in the Reparations Coordinating Committee, that their legal reason for not participating, and you think about this, I mean, even in a 5-week first-year law student would know better than this. Their argument was that if we have a discussion about racism and there is a judgment about slavery and colonialism being crimes against humanity, it might make us liable as a nation. That was the argument. I wish it were that simple. I can go to South Africa, get a vote, and come back and say, okay, I won the reparations case, pay me. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. But that was the essence of the argument. We can't participate in those debates because there might be some sort of resolution adopted that we would find unacceptable and that would create problems for future litigation. And that was the essence of the argument. Not that slavery didn't occur, not that we shouldn't apologize for the horrors of slavery, but that if we acknowledge that slavery was a crime against humanity, then we are, in a sense, acknowledging our guilt and a potential lawsuit. Well, as you all may now know, the conference ultimately adopted just that language, that slavery and colonialism are crimes against humanity, which is a term of art. And that was adopted by those who attended the conference because they understood, as South Africa understood in the 1990s with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, if we're going to go forward and make racial progress, we have to go back and not ignore our history. South Africa went through that in the early 1990s when they had to have Nelson Mandela and Winnie Mandela, in addition to Peter Botha and all types of whites, come forward and talk about crimes they had committed, race-based crimes, against individuals or groups that had something to do with the apartheid period, and to an extent be given immunity, criminal immunity from prosecution by honestly admitting their past behavior. And throughout South Africa that happened, and that's why you had one of the few bloodless revolutions in a country that had so much racial strife for so long. And so even though the United States wasn't there, the two things that they feared the most happened and didn't happen. There was no, in a sense, trashing of Israel in any document, and the world decided that slavery and colonialism are crimes against humanity. So those issues were addressed.